when you vote for a president based on the wrong thing, in other words, not based on issues, but based on your prejudices, you get a President Trump. You get somebody that really cares nothing about you, but simply used your prejudice, used your ignorance, or used many other features that you have, grievances that you have to win an election. But the difference here is not telling you exactly what they would do that would make your life better, but telling you all the things that they are going to do to solve all the problems you dislike. Maybe that's DEI. Maybe that's gay people. Maybe that's people of a different ethnicity. So he tackles all these people because, he knows that will keep you focused on supporting him, because both of you can display the hate for the same folks, but he hasn't told you anything he's going to do for you. But he also tells the rest of America all the things that he supports. I'm going to cut the government. I'm going to cut these programs, all of that. But the way he has you believing is that won't affect you. It will affect the other. But a thinking person understands that if you are from a state or of a persuasion that is dependent on government, how could it not possibly affect you? Well, now we have this Marine veteran who worked for the IRS. The last thing he thought when he voted for Donald Trump is Donald Trump is coming for him, even though the right-wing mantra was talking about Biden is hiring 80,000 IRS workers, and we don't want these people to be working for government. And you, Mr. Veteran, who works for the IRS, voted for Donald Trump. Did you not hear when he says they don't want all these IRS people running around? Same with the people who voted to reduce government. Now they're not getting a lot of the subsidies they want. So are the people who voted for this president who said he was going to cut programs and give big tax cuts. Where do you think the tax cuts come from? You. No Medicaid or lowering in Medicaid and firing workers. And now it has come to pass. He is doing exactly what he told you he was going to do, but he's also doing your bidding. Anti-DEI, hey, you got it. Anti-trans, hey, you got it. But what about anti-programs that all of you depend on? You see, the anti-trans didn't make any money for his rich folks, tax cuts for his rich folks. The anti-DEI didn't do anything for the tax cuts for his rich folks, because there ain't no money in those particular social programs you hate. There ain't no money in those things that you really, really hate. The people you hate, getting at those people you hate, that doesn't come with money. That's just a thing. But the money that he needs, he had to get from somewhere. So he increases on tariffs. And who pays for that again? You do. And he increases on thing after thing after thing. And who pays? You do. And as you're starting to see these things, let's hope that you'll go out, not only in the streets, but you'll go out to the town halls and let these guys know that if they follow your Führer, that they will ultimately pay the price. I want you to listen to this Marine veteran along with his congressman and this MSNBC host. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Today, Democrats have a clear strategy against Donald Trump. They don't need to craft stories about his administration. They plan to amplify the real world stories of those who are acutely feeling the effects. To that end, my next guest is one of the Democratic members of Congress who will be attending the president's speech, alongside his guest who lost his job because of Trump and Elon Musk's Doge cuts. Democratic Congressman Joe Courtney and Gabriel Delattre, a Marine veteran who voted for Trump in November, both join me. So, Gabriel, first and foremost, thank you for your service. The theme of the president's speech tonight is the renewal of the American dream, although I know you were recently fired from the IRS just 5 days before the end of your probationary period. So what are you hoping to hear from President Trump tonight as you sit in the audience along with other federal workers who also lost their jobs recently?
First and foremost, thank you for having me on. I'm hoping to hear the president say that he has a plan to reinstate the veterans that were fired and also the spouses of armed forces members that are overseas that use federal employment. That's really it. I'm here on behalf of veterans.
I don't want to say that Elena Haba, counselor to the president, speaks for him, but she is a spokesperson for the White House. And she was asked just today about people like yourself, particularly veterans who have been fired from the federal workforce. And I want to play for you what she said just a short time ago.
Is the president starting to think about maybe some of those veterans who worked for the federal government and maybe what the administration can do to at least help salvage their lives?
Well, as you know, we care about veterans tremendously. I mean, that's something the president has always cared about. Anybody in blue, anybody that serves this country. But at the same time, we have taxpayer dollars. We have a fiscal responsibility to use taxpayer dollars to pay people that actually work. That doesn't mean that we forget our veterans by any means. We are going to care for them in the right way, but perhaps they're not fit to have a job at this moment or not willing to come to work. And we can't, I wouldn't take money from you and pay somebody and say, sorry, they're not going to come to work. It's just not acceptable.
I'd like you to react specifically because she's talking about veterans like yourself when she says they're not fit to have a job at this moment or not willing to come to work. Does that apply to you or any of the other veterans who you work with?
No, it doesn't. I was in the office all the time. I oversaw all the IRS facilities in Connecticut, so it was can't really do that job from home. I was all over the New England region, going into these offices, making sure they were running good so that we could have our taxpayer assistance centers who American people rely on to get taxes done. So it's sad to hear, but I'm still here to get veterans their job back, and that's going to be my goal while I'm down here.
Congressman, is there anything you can do to help in that regard?
So we've introduced legislation, the Veterans Job Protection Act, which would in fact reverse those firings, which again, I think it's important to remember. The federal government actually has been intentionally and targeted in a targeted fashion reaching out to veterans to take federal jobs because they have the right skill set in terms of teamwork, training, just like Gabe, who did logistics in the Marine Corps and now, was in a position to make sure these buildings were working, the way they're supposed to. And again, was going to work every single day. I mean, it's really tough to listen to someone accuse people just broad brush without regarding, really understanding the truth, which is that Gabe and others were there diligently because that's the way they were trained in the military, that was to show up and follow orders.
There's all kinds of research that shows how military members have been important and, as you say, very disciplined members of the business community after they leave service. But one challenge, Congressman, tonight clearly is that you and other Democrats don't have the podium. Donald Trump has the podium. He'll be able to talk about the guests he's invited tonight. He'll be able to make emotional connections, for example, with the families of one person who was killed during the assassination attempt on his life. So how do you and other Democrats amplify stories like Gabriel's, not just tonight, but in the weeks to come? Do you think that in addition to legislation, which will be tough in a Republican Congress, there is a pressure campaign that can work?
Absolutely. So, again, Gabe has been meeting with professional committee staff while he's been here in town, who, again, this is not just a one and done type of effort. I mean, people understand that this is going to take a while. I mean, he's represented by a federal employees union, who, again, is actually representing people like him that the IRS just, again, arbitrarily and indiscriminately fired. So there's a, appeal process Congress that they're definitely involved in. But, honestly, I think the external pressure of reaching out to veteran service organizations who advocated for these veterans hiring programs like the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, all of them, is going to really put some pressure externally, both in terms of the administration and Congress, to really just fix what I think most Americans would find just totally, abhorrent, that people who wore the uniform of this country relied on the recruitment efforts that the federal government reached out to them with, are actually going to be able to continue to perform important work, which, by the way, is now not happening in instance in terms of getting ready for the tax season, which is fast approaching.
And which is so important to virtually all Americans. So, Gabe, let me ask you, if I can, personally, emotionally, financially, what this has done to you and your family.
Put a lot of pressure on us, to be honest. We have a 6-month-old baby, my wife and I. Beautiful baby. We love her. Parenthood's awesome, but it's put an extra weight on our shoulders. In the meantime, looking for employment while I fight this, but I'm hoping that I can get my job back, and I'm hoping that I can get all the veterans that were fired their jobs back. There was around 6,000 veterans that were let go. If I can come here and I can get 5,999 veterans their job back, but I don't, I'm okay with that too.
So as you can see, this Trump voting Marine veteran, he's working hard in Congress now to get the jobs back for the 5,999 IRS workers that were laid off. I wish him well. I wish him luck. I hope he got educated on what his Fuhrer is going to do, will do, did. And I hope never again he makes the mistake of supporting the evil represented by not just Trump. Trump is pretty much over, but the entire train, the entire bench of Trumpians that are there intent on destroying not only our government, but our country.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.